What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast. Today we have a very special guest. She is in the real estate and development game. She is absolutely crushing it. 50 multifamily rental units, over plus 500 properties flipped. And guys, let me tell you, she is a beast at what she does. Help us welcome the one and only Nathali Delgado. How are you?
Hi.
Ooh,
wow.
All right. Look at that. I like that intro.
I like that intro.
Woo.
You did your homework.
Trust me, I did. Trust me, I did.
I love that. Thank you for having me, guys.
Of course, it's a pleasure to have you on, and we're looking forward to diving into your world. And most importantly, how did you even get started into the real estate space, and where did that passion come from?
I've always been like a very hard worker. I can honestly say it's something that I was born with. And it's funny because I was in Colombia. I'm from Colombia, right? So I was born in Colombia, raised here. And I was in Colombia about a month and a half ago, and I just found this out. My mom told me, she's like, when you were like 4 or 5 years old, you already wanted a job. And I was like, really? Like, of course I don't remember. And she was just like, yeah, you would tell the bakery next door to give you a job, and you would go behind the counter and tell them like, oh, don't pay me, but I'll just take care of your customers. And I'm like, what? So apparently I was born with it. But since I remember, I got a job when I was 14. So like growing up, I was born in Colombia. I was raised here. When we first came here, didn't know English, no education. The only jobs that she could get was like cleaning. So she would clean the airports at night. My dad was a social worker, and I kind of like always grew up seeing my parents work so hard. And I saw that the entrepreneurs, like the people that owned the businesses, were the ones that made a lot of money. So that's when I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I've tried so many businesses. It's not like I just woke up and said I want to be in real estate and it worked. I've had a babysitting agency. I had a private bartender company where I would like do kind of catering for parties and bring the bartenders. I've done MLM before, multi-level marketing. I flipped cars. I've used to buy Blackberries and resell them. So I've done everything. Right before I got into real estate, I opened up a shoe store. So growing up, they would say like, do your passion, do what makes you happy. And I really liked fashion, and I loved shoes. So I was like, okay, I'm going to open up a shoe store. And very quickly, like 6 months into having my shoe store, I realized like, wow, like I love shoes, but I don't love, I don't like selling the shoes. Because selling shoes is one thing, being in retail is another thing, right? So I had a storefront. This is 9 years ago, right? Online stores weren't such a big thing. And for me, in my head, I was like, it's shoes. You know, people have to come try it on. And so it was working weekends, working nights, Black Friday, you name it, like all the holidays. And it got very, very tiring. Right around that time, I got offered randomly a mobile home to buy. And it was for $6,000. I still have that mobile home to this day. Oof, I probably will never sell it. And the only way that the math worked was to rent it out by the room. And everyone thought that I was crazy. But it was like the only thing that would get me out of like the situation that I was in. And once I started doing that and I started getting rental income, the rest was history. I was like, I want to go all in. I sold my inventory. I got out of the shoe store. Actually went from retail footwear to wholesale. So I would buy here in Miami and sell it off like in the Bahamas, Colombia, and Venezuela. And then little by little, I transitioned full-time into real estate. That's kind of like how I first got started in real estate, you could say.
What a journey.
Yeah. Where did you buy that mobile home?
In West Palm Beach.
In
Lake Worth.
In Lake Worth. So
that's where my grandparents were from.
Yeah.
Wow. So they were selling it for $6,000. You bought it, and then are you still renting it by room?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I don't really think you can find deals like that anymore because I own the mobile home. but I don't own the land.
That's what I was gonna say,
the land. So, and to this day, like, it's been 8-9 years, I still rent the land. So the landowner has been getting paid.
Have you tried acquiring it from the landowner?
It's part of a park.
No, it's huge.
Okay.
Yeah, it's part of a park.
So then let me ask you this. So you got it for $6,000. What's like the ROI that you've been making off of it? If you don't mind me just saying, a percentage wise.
I can't even.
It's just you've already made your money back on that 6,000.
I make it like every year.
That's crazy. I love that.
So like back then, I netted about I would net about $800 average. Now with everything like how expensive it's gotten, I still net about $400 a month average. But it's something that runs itself. It's $400 a month. Paying my mom, I pay my mom to manage it now, and it's just $400 that comes in. I don't have to do anything, and it just kind of takes care of itself.
Did you keep expanding on that model?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that was like my first. That's like what got me into real estate. It's funny because my parents always told me like get into real estate. So they would buy properties, but they did it on a like I always say like they took so long. They would buy like one property a year, take all year to remodel it, and then maybe sell it or maybe rent it. So by this time they had already been in real estate, but you know when you're growing up, you want to do the absolute opposite of what they're doing. So like after having my shoe store and agreeing that I was going to go into real estate, I saw like the potential. Like, do you understand how many shoes I have to sell to get to where that mobile home was making me money?
Bet.
It was a lot of shoes. So my goal back then, I was probably like 22 by this time. My goal was to make $100,000 a year. And I was making about $800 average, give or take. So anywhere from $800 to $1,000 a month off that mobile home. So I was like, okay, 100,000 divided by 12, I need to make $8,333. I have one mobile home making me close to $1,000. I need 8 of them. And then so I did that. But I kind of got to a plateau because, remember, I don't own the land. And really what I was doing was quote unquote not allowed because I was renting out the land and subletting the rooms, and that was against my lease. So I had to act like I was living in all these properties, and it just got to a point where I was like, great, the money's coming in. 23, 24 by this time, but like literally I'd have to do the craziest things, like go park my car there overnight.
I was about to ask you
so
that.
People would think that I lived there.
Man.
So it was just like, it hit a plateau and I got caught. I was forced to sell some of them because these mobile park communities have associations. And I kept the last 3 that weren't very hard to manage, which I still have them. Those are the 3. One of them, so the first one I got it for $6,000. That's the one I still have. The second one I actually got for $2,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And the third one I got for $5,000, and just like so on and so forth. I don't really remember the rest of them because I don't have them anymore. It was a long time. I only remember the ones that I have now.
But here's the thing: when you want to create success, like, right, you got to sometimes do things that, you know, requires hustle, and then also as well, like, you were doing something that you're like, man, I have to sacrifice and literally go out here at night just so that way people are not thinking like, okay, she's not supposed to be doing this. This is really me. But you did that to the point where you got yourself to another point to then catapult you to the next level. So
yeah.
I love that because I think so many people are something. Now, of course, we're not saying go ahead and do things that if you don't feel comfortable with, but in your case, like, you had to do what it took to make shit happen, and you did it. So facing through that, like, where'd you learn to like build that mentality, you know, build that mindset? Or was this just like, I have to do this because if not, I'm not going to be able to survive? Like, where'd you get that from?
I think probably more like my mom. My mom's like that. It's funny because my mom's like that and my dad's the complete opposite.
Really?
Yeah. So my mom's kind of the one just doing like
So she's a driver.
Yeah. She's always doing like off the wall things, like to the point where even I'm like, what are you doing? And my dad's always the one that's like, you know, kind of playing it more safe. And until, it's funny because when I started this, right, my parents had some real estate, But this is like right around the crash, like right after the crash.
Gotcha.
So nobody wanted to deal with it, with real estate. Nobody, like, when I bought the mobile home, everyone said I was going to lose the money.
So you bought the mobile homes. I wanted to ask you that. You bought the mobile homes after the recession just
Yeah.
happened?
Wow.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, okay.
like 2010,
Yeah.
2009.
Yeah. No, this was like 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, like 2011.
Still shortly after.
So like people were very scared to buy. Everybody. So that when I bought that mobile home, nobody believed in that I should buy it. And $6,000 was a lot of money for me.
Yeah, and back then too.
Yeah. And fast forward, I did that. Then my parents started believing in it. And now they still have their mobile homes. And that's why, like, my mom and my dad don't work anymore, because we started doing that. Like, I had my mobile homes. They still have their mobile homes to this day, to where they don't have to work.
Now, is your business 100% based on mobile homes? Is that like your business model? What is it right
actually,
now?
I don't buy mobile homes anymore.
Okay.
That kind of like got me to that point. That got me back to that point. And I saved up, and then I started buying my first property. That first property, I bought it. I lived in the front, and then I made a studio in the back. Like, everything I ever did, like, I hacked
Look at you.
everything. Like, that's just kind of like what I had to do. And that took me up until when I moved to Miami. I would like buy, fix, and flip houses. And then I lived in the first house that I bought. And that took me to where I moved to Miami, and I didn't know anybody here. Like, I didn't even have friends. And since I was so new, I got a job at a real estate investment company. I was like, okay, well, while I get stabilized, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. The funny part is, like, I look back and, like, now it looks like it's an accomplishment, what I was doing. But back then I just felt like I was just running around and just trying to, like, it didn't feel as good as it feels now looking back at it.
Well, when you look back and connect the dots, you can actually sit there and be like, man, I actually did this and I had to go through this, but look where I'm at. It's pretty freaking cool. Like, kudos to you. Like, a lot of people are not willing to put in that work or do those things, you know, and it shows. And I wanted to, with that being said, I wanted to ask you, like, from when you started to where the industry is now in real estate, like, what would you say is the biggest thing that has changed in your perspective in today's world?
Like, online marketing has changed everything in a good way and in a bad way. Even like as soon as, like as early as COVID. Mm-hmm. Before COVID, the type of marketing that I use to acquire my properties now are very old school. Like, they're cold calling, they're SMS, mailers. And now you see sellers going online a lot more, where I have a wholesale real estate operation, and it's based on finding people that are in distress that need to sell, right? But those people are not going online more and finding a lot more investors to sell to. So I think that's been a huge pivot, just as early as COVID times, because so many people were forced to go online. So now, like, it's getting harder to acquire real estate because you have more and more of those sellers online getting different opinions from realtors, other investors, hedge funds. So I would think that's like the main thing that has changed.
So when you were working for that investment firm, what were you, I guess, primarily doing there? Were you just doing wholesaling, or were you doing other things?
So they were a wholesale company. But I didn't really know what wholesaling was back then, because I worked as a property manager. So they had about, I think it was like 97 rentals, and I managed them. And I only did property management. Like, they had a sales department, but I never really even went into that office because I was so busy with my own work.
Yeah, you had your own deals.
Yeah. I had to rent the properties. I had to renovate them. What I did learn through them is multifamily. Like, I renovated entire buildings. So when I went into buying my multifamily buildings, it wasn't that scary. That experience really served me.
So for anybody out there who's into that, you know, being able to acquire, renovate, and then flip, what is your, like, as far as what you figured out for yourself, and maybe you want to share with others, like, what do you say is the process that you take, or suggestion or advice you would give to anybody that's out there looking to do that?
Like, Because you can go two different ways, and I feel like they both work. You just have to more identify what kind of person you are. I'm not as, I'm a little bit more fearless, you could say, or...
Like risk-taking?
Yeah, to a certain degree.
Calculated.
Yeah, calculated, but I don't overthink it too much. So that's why there's two ways to go about it, and they both work. Like, if you want to be, like, if you want to get into real estate and you're very scared, which I feel like a lot of people, most people are, go work for a company that's doing that, because that really helped me.
Gotcha.
That really helped me, but I was also doing it beforehand too. So I feel like you can't really say that because I worked for them is that I felt comfortable going into real estate, because I was already doing the mobile home things. I was already flipping. I think I was already a realtor back then too. I just wasn't so.
So it's kind of like polished up.
Yeah.
Refined the
Yeah,
tools.
because I remember when I first moved here to Miami, I had just gone through a breakup, and really I got the job to get to know people.
Gotcha.
To just not be on my own. That's really why I got the job. Like, I wanted to learn, but more than anything, I just wanted to not be lonely here. And then the rest of the stuff was extra. But I didn't really get the job to learn. It was just more like they were my family here.
So when you landed in Miami, what type of deals were you doing? Were you doing more multifamily, like purchasing it, buying a holding for yourself, for the investment company?
So when I was working for the investment company, I wasn't doing any deals, because I used to manage 97 units.
So that was a handful.
So you were doing property management work, okay.
Yeah, it was a lot. I managed their rental properties, and it was a lot. I would manage it, and then I also renovate it for them. So I would reposition their buildings. So it was a handful. Yeah, and I enjoyed it. So it didn't leave any time for anything else, for doing my own projects or anything like that. But that's not really, like, for that stage in my life, it's not what I wanted. I just wanted more like to plant my feet here and create community and get settled.
And what do you think about the market right now in Miami?
You know, I go back and forth all the time about it. I think it still has a lot of growth left to go. As high as it is now, I see Miami being like LA. And if you compare to where we are now compared to LA, we have a long way to go.
I agree.
Oh, a long way.
I agree. Do you feel that, like, with interest rates going up and other little factors, do you think that's gonna put a stop, or do you believe that Miami is gonna keep rolling strong just because of the influx of people that want to live over here?
I feel like there has to be a correction. I think we're due for a correction, but I don't think we're gonna get hit as hard as the rest of the states. And the reason why I feel that way is because people are buying, but they're not buying. There's a lot of cash purchases. The type of financing that's going on now, like, there's a lot of buyers coming in with 20, even 30% down. They're coming in over asking with cash. So I feel like we have a good foundation to our local economy right now.
Gotcha. Which makes sense. And as you can see, most of the buyers that have been coming in have been that since even COVID.
Yeah.
So, and it hasn't really stopped. Me and Bryan talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
If you want, you can share, I know, some of your experiences of some of the people you've worked with.
I think Miami is just the sad part is that the residents here are going to get kicked out. So right now it's unfortunate that the change that happened, it's a permanent change that's going to stay here. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to go back. I do agree there will be a correction, or at least it will cool down. I'm already seeing it right now. There's a little bit of cooling down. Even myself, I'm helping some people buy multifamilies in the millions, and some of the numbers don't make sense. And I'll look here at a multifamily and I'll run the numbers, and it's crazy because some people, I have, for example, a duplex, and this guy wants to sell it for $1 million, but each of those units he's renting out for $1,400, and I'm like, guy, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And the lease, mind you, the guy had the nerve to tell me that the lease is for 2 years. So not only did he lock the people in for 2 years in that lease, if I were to buy it, I can't even kick them out to make my money. So it's right now there's a lot of overpriced. And I agree, there is going to be some type of correction. Either, the residents that are here now are going to wake up if they really need to sell. But it's like a weird thing because the catch-22, in my opinion, because the people that have lived here for so long, they don't really care. They have multifamily. It's paid off. They're just sitting on it. They're like, hey, whatever happens here is whatever happens. I'm not going to worry about it. And that's what I'm seeing right now. So let's see how long this goes. It's weird.
So like, and I've recently learned this when it comes to the multifamily and buying and holding. And there's different markets because I also buy in North Carolina.
Okay.
And I feel like there's different benefits of buying in different markets. Like these main cities, New York, LA, Miami, what I've learned is here you don't really buy for cash flow.
No.
You buy for appreciation.
100%.
And for me, that's new. That's a new realization.
Here's all the long-term game.
Yeah. It's more of and not even really long-term.
No,
because
it's dangerous,
even over
though.
1 year, they go up. So like the properties go up so much. And if you really, really study these big investors, that's where they make their money, is on the refinancing over a period of time or selling it over a period of time. And it's almost like, the cash flow in the middle is just kind of like, it's there to almost have you break even. But here in Miami, cash flow is not really what you're going to get rich off.
So for somebody who's trying to get into the real estate game now, wants to invest, do you, obviously, I guess it depends on the person, but do you recommend trying to go after something that can appreciate quicker in a city like Miami, or go after property that can bring you quicker cash flow?
Appreciation will always make you much more richer than cash flow. And it's funny because if you would have asked me last year, I would have said the opposite.
You would have said opposite.
Yeah. Which is why I was going more into the North Carolina market. I've been in North Carolina now for going on 2 years. I started wholesaling, and then I was getting such good deals compared to here in Miami that I was like, why not keep them? Yeah. I have this property in North Carolina. I bought it for $30,000. I did put in about $50,000 now into it, but it's still at $80,000, and I rent it for $1,100. That's more than 1%. You're never going to get that here in Miami. But great, I get $1,100 out of $80,000 invested. I'm going to refinance out. I'm going to get my money out. Great. But that property really, it has appreciated, but not as much
Not drastically.
as here. So when you just put numbers to numbers, appreciation is where you're going to make more money.
How about some of these smaller cities that are coming up, like Orlando, Tampa? What are your thoughts about those as far as when it comes to property appreciation?
Well, I don't really think that you could say Orlando, Tampa, because they're competing with Miami right now.
Yeah.
The Tampa market is crazy.
I know Tampa Bay is ridiculous. The Bay is
crazy
horrendous
right now. But I get what you mean. I think you mean these smaller cities, right?
Yeah.
I think with everyone just wanting to move to Florida, it's a 10, 20-year play. I think you also have to, for investors, you have to identify what kind of investor you are. Because when I was younger, I'm 30 years old now, but I've been hustling nonstop for the past 9 years. Even though I'm 30 and I'm young, I'm kind of tired of hustling so much. And before, what I would do is always fix and flip. We've only talked about my rentals, but really most of my work has been in flipping and making these big spreads, right? And you got to identify what kind of investor you are, because before I was just fixing and flipping, and I was so happy making $40,000 to $50,000 per project. But the bad part about it is that I had to go find the next one.
Gotcha.
Now I'm more transitioning to buying and holding as much as I can, because what I have in mind are different things. I want to get married. I want to have kids. So what's most important for me now is stability. And that's why I love real estate, because there's so many different pockets, and you can be a different kind of person, and real estate will meet you somewhere, whether you want to buy, fix and flip, or buy and hold. I have friends, mainly the men, that only like flipping. They hate dealing with the tenants. They feel like cash flow is trash because it's so little at the end of the year, and they'd rather just keep looking for their next property and not have to deal with people in the middle, right? The leaky toilets, the plumbers, the electricians, the non-paying tenants. So it really just depends where you're at.
Yeah,
100%. I just think that, and you're right with the appreciation, that the market here is just ridiculous. If you're buying into Miami or any of the big markets, you got to look at potential, you know, appreciation of that property, you know, value add. You see something there, you can repair it. But in my opinion, I think there's just too much speculation in there, because if you can't cover rent with cash flow, then you're just buying off of just assumptions. You're assuming that this property is going to get bigger. Then what happens? Because now interest rates go up. Now you can't buy the bigger house that you wanted to buy. What happens to the rest of the market? You know, now you have a market here that people already can't afford to buy. So they're already in a tight spot. Now you raise interest rates. Now the barrier to entry buy a home is a lot harder. Now the people in Miami, especially 40% of residents here are renters. What are they going to buy here?
Yeah. So like, you have to also keep in mind that rent usually doesn't go down. Historically, you haven't really seen like, oh, rent here used to be $1,400 and now it went down to $1,000. So I feel like even though interest rates, and I feel like it's good that interest rates have gone up. You know, people hate me for saying that, but it's good because it brings some stability into the market. And I'm refinancing myself, and I'm getting hit with the higher interest rate. But I feel like it stabilizes the market rather than making it crash, right? But that's exactly what I was saying. Like, what I've learned is if I want to survive in Miami, I can't really buy so much off cash flow because it doesn't make sense. So for that, you need to go play in a different market.
Yeah, 100%.
If you want to buy for cash flow. And it's
sense.
sad to say it, but it's the truth. I feel like someone has to say it.
And you've experienced it yourself.
Yeah, you have New York, you have buyers from New York that are buying at a 3 cap.
That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
Who does that? But they're playing a different game. They're playing a different game. And from LA, a 3 and a 4 cap, and they're talking about over asking, but they're playing a different game. They're playing a game of appreciation, and they're playing a game of securing their asset. They need to put the money in something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's different.
See, even people down here can do it, and you got to understand, I tell people all the time, like, you got to remember this too. When people from New York or California coming over here, and everything's online now, a lot of people working from home. So here's the thing. A lot of these New Yorkers, they keep their jobs too from home.
Right.
And they're making New York salary, California salary to Californians. And in Miami, the salary is completely different. So the salary here doesn't match the lifestyle, but these guys can come over here, they can work remote, and they can say, you know what, I'm going to pay over because it's still going to be cheaper
Than
what I would have going to pay over here in New York or in California.
100%, yeah.
And I want to shift the topic over because you were talking about that you're already at a point in your life that you're looking to, you know, expand, have a partner, build with somebody. How is that being an entrepreneur like yourself, a goal getter, person that has high standards? How is it finding somebody that you can match with? Like, what's the criteria that you're looking for? What do you think about that?
Oh, that's a good question.
We turn into a dating podcast now for all the listeners out there.
Now we're giving relationship advice. For me, I was actually thinking about that this morning because a lot of people ask me like why I work so much, and I work because I have to be busy. Like I don't know why.
Keep yourself occupied.
I always have to be busy. Like I have to be up to something. Like let's say on the weekends I'm not doing something, I'll just like take everything out of my closet and put it back in. So right now I feel like I'm really busy with work because that's what's right in front of me. But that's why also I'm preparing because I know that I want to have a family. And when I have a family, I want to be dedicated to my family. So contrary of what you think that I would be like, I don't think I want to work too much once I have a family, or it's not going to be my number one priority. And then right now I'm single. And what can I say? For me, a guy has to impress me.
So what does it take?
Yeah, what's impressing?
You have to do something I've never done before. Like I can't imagine doing. I can't imagine. Like I don't know the how. So it has to be like you have to impress.
And I want to ask this because I know sometimes people have different opinions. Do you want them to be in your same industry or in a different industry?
You know what? Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know sometimes some people are like, no, I don't want them in my industry.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll be like, no, I do have to be in my industry.
I feel like most people are like that. No. For me, ideally, they're in real estate.
Because you want them to work, like, you guys want to push and achieve goals in that same.
I feel like they'd
frame.
have to be in real estate. And ideally, like, they can take over whatever I have or have their own thing. But I don't see myself in the next 10 years being like the front face of my company or like the driver.
Yeah. Yeah, and at that point, like
I
everything,
see myself being more supportive.
and everything you're doing now, like at the end of the day, what you're doing is instead of you serving your money is serving you. So you're setting yourself up so that way when you have your family, the money's serving you for all the hard work you did.
Right.
Now you don't have to be in your business as much anymore. You're just back and just on making sure everything's operating smooth. Your income's coming in and you're good.
Right.
That's awesome though that you set that up, because I'll tell you right now, like a lot of people don't think like that, pre-planning things to then.
Yeah, I think of things in so many different directions, and that's why like every time you ask me something, like I can give you three answers for it. And like for me personally, like I'm setting myself up to where it makes sense if I'm with a real estate entrepreneur and we stay together. If I'm a single mom, my plan also makes sense.
You have it planned out in different ways.
Yeah.
So is it gonna be a Miami real estate entrepreneur, a West Palm Beach real estate entrepreneur? Where's it coming from?
Look, I want to ask,
Okay.
what do you think about the Miami dating scene then? So you've been single for, how long have you been single for?
I've been single. Well, depends what you count as a relationship. Let's say since the beginning of the year.
Beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And what's your opinion of the dating scene in Miami? If you even date anybody in Miami.
No, I date in Miami. I think, so my ex wasn't from Miami, and my ex before him wasn't from Miami either. We'd be back and forth. So that I feel like that works with me now because I'm so busy, long distance works. I don't think the dating scene here in Miami is bad, to tell you the truth. I feel like it's just more about putting yourself out there and also like demanding respect and receiving it. And when people tell me all the time like the dating scene here sucks, so I'll talk about it from the women's standpoint. The women's standpoint, they say the dating life here sucks and the guys are players and they have multiple women. Well, that's because you let it happen and because you gave off that vibe where it was okay.
Yeah, 100%. And I think in Miami, there's like that culture, is like the pickup, the hookup culture. And then, you know, when people start liking each other, there's like a blurry line in there because no one knows like, oh, am I still going to go out and party and do my thing, or am I still committed to you? And I laugh when girls say that the guys are doing that, but girls have more power than guys.
Yeah.
If you take one picture, you're going to have 1,000 guys hit up and DM you. So it's funny when, because it is true. It goes both ways. And I agree that people need to, especially in our society, start setting some standards and boundaries for ourselves, both guys and women, and say, hey, you know, if you want a quality person, you also have to be that quality person as well. And I think that's like a self-reflection type of thing people need to do.
And also, too, that they can fit in with your lifestyle, too, and that you can fit in theirs.
100%.
That's another issue that happens a lot of times is that people expect, without even sharing things off the front, from like the moment you meet, or like, hey, this is what my life is. This is your life. We can fit each other's lives. Great, we can make it happen. But I think a lot of people expect the other to sometimes conform. And obviously, in any relationship, there's sacrifice. But if you talk up front about these things, instead of getting in a relationship and all this shit starts popping up, and they're like, wait, I expected you, or I thought that you were going to do this, or I thought, that's where you get a lot of these issues, right? So I think it's so important to have, you know, when you're dating somebody, it's like, hey, like, this is my lifestyle. These are the things I do. This is what you do. Can we both make this happen?
Right. So I think the one problem that there is in Miami, though, so I don't think that the dating scene here is bad. I think the standards are probably bad that an individual has.
Like, what do you see as bad? What do you say some of the bad
like, for
standards
example,
that you see?
I go out. I like, even though I'm very hardworking, on the weekends, I love going out to a good dinner party. I'm trying to get out of clubbing. It really doesn't serve me for my goals now, but I'm not perfect, right? And I'll be with a group of friends, right? And they'll get approached as the hookup girls, and I won't. But it's because I know how to cut it real quick, too, right? So it's like the standards that you set for yourself are important, and how you come across are important. And that's also like for the women, you have to be okay with guys being like, oh, you're not going to be easy. Okay, I'm not interested in you. And it's like, okay, cool, you know? And then for men on the male side, since you guys have so many women throwing also themselves on you, I feel like you guys get very easily distracted, right? And you can easily get like, how do you say, like before you know it, the years have passed and you're still in that scene. So that's where communication is key, right? Like what you were just talking about in a relationship, and talking about like what you want, how do you fit into each other's life? Most people that date, it probably not even just in Miami, in general, don't get to that conversation because you usually date maybe for a month and then you get distracted and don't date anymore.
I think that conversation needs to come up early.
Yeah.
Like, I think that needs to come up early because I think people get way too into it and then the problems happen.
Right.
You know, and it's just like, yo, this is my life. This is yours. Can we work in each other's, right? Individual goals, relationship goals. What are the, non-negotiables? Like, these are all important things that I think a lot of people skip or they're scared to bring up because they're like, I don't want to scare off this person and make them think this, which in reality, what you're doing for yourself, you're doing that person a favor, you're doing yourself a favor.
Yeah.
Right? And if you can meet in the middle and get that done quicker, you can see if this is going to work or not.
I think it's also people are scared to be alone.
True.
Yeah, for sure. There's probably a lot of people hitting 30, because I'm 32, and people are just like, oh man, I'm gonna die alone.
Yeah.
You start seeing all your friends on IG.
I'll be 30, so it's like I get it. People start reassessing themselves too, depending on their age and like, okay, I'm at this stage in my life. What do I have? What I don't have? What have I accomplished? What haven't I accomplished? Okay, where's my time? Is my time taking? You know what I mean? I think a lot of people do that too, and then they either try to rush into things too quickly. Or as well, like you said, they're scared to get out of things because they look at their clock. Right.
No, I mean, I get that all the time. And it, like just getting out of a relationship, right? I got out of a relationship in the beginning of this year. It's difficult because you have to start again from zero. But I wouldn't want to look back and regret it.
Totally.
So if you're going to do it now.
And here's the other thing. Like, you're a high performer. So in your case, like guys you've dated in the past or guys you're looking for, like I would think, right? You're looking for a high performer as well. Like you said, another real estate agent. So living this high performance life. And I think, and now we're going to talk about like entrepreneurs and business owners, stuff like that. I think sometimes it does become difficult to find, as an entrepreneur, a person that understands your lifestyle,
right?
Unless they're a high performer themselves, or there's somebody that says, I know my role, I'm going to support you all the way, and I love you, and we're going to make this happen, right? And you're going to support them in their role, right? And you guys help each other out like that. So I think that's the only two ways, my opinion, that it best works when it comes to people that are in our position who have a busy, high-performing schedule or lifestyle and want to be with somebody because, if you're at the end of the day, we're not the average normal people. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing things that are not typically, known as normal because we want to achieve more. So if you don't have somebody on your side that is doing things similar, or they accept their role and they're supporting you, it's hard. It's not easy. And typically, most people are not like that.
Yeah, I think, and kind of just to I know you want to wrap up this topic, but in something I've just learned, I could say maybe in the past 6 months, is just communication and talking about what's on your mind is so key. That's something that I've really, I'm learning. And by that, I mean if you're starting to date someone, and something even as little, how can I say it? I'm not very prideful anymore. If I think something, I'm going to say it. And I feel like in this culture, especially in this Miami culture, everyone is scared to come off as clingy or below someone else. I don't care. I'm really getting to the point where I don't care. I used to.
And what do you mean by below?
I'm a little crazy, I'm Latina. letting my crazy out. So
Right.
little things like, for example, like, let's say like you guys are busy here. Today you guys are going to be filming your podcast and your girlfriend's calling, right? I'm not scared to be like, why aren't you calling me back? Versus I feel like we're in like such a world where everyone is like so emotionless. Yeah, like, is that a word? Emotionless? Yeah, that's a word, right? People are scared to say that. People would be like, why haven't you called me? You know, it's like, oh no, I'm going to come off as clingy. I have opened myself up to be okay with saying that, where I wouldn't before.
So now you're more open to saying like what you're feeling at the moment.
Yeah.
So I guess my question was, based off that feeling, you say it. Let's say the response is, hey, I'm busy right now. That's why I haven't been able to call you, but I'll get back to you X amount of time.
Yeah, that's a great response.
Okay. So I just want to know, just based off, so anybody, okay, the response, because I know there's some people that'll be like, well, I haven't heard from you, and I don't care if you're busy, and X, Y, and Z, and you got to call me now. So that's why I'm just saying, because I know sometimes people react like that. So it's like, say how you feel, but also
be understanding
and check your emotion based on the response.
Most people are understanding. The thing is that most people don't talk about it until they're already blowing up. Like, they already think, like, in your case, maybe it's like, oh, he's just with someone else, or he's just not interested. You know, like, more catching it early on.
And let me ask you a question. So what if you're already living with a person and you already know they're going to come back? I'm assuming, I don't know if, you know, if you're talking about within the context of, you know, you're not living with them, so you're just like communicating just to touch base because like, hey, you haven't seen them. Does that change the dynamics of your conversation? Like if you're living with somebody, it's like, hey, all right, I know you're going to be working today. I'm going to see you when you come back. Or do you continuously keep that conversation? I'm just curious.
Do you expect like...
I haven't lived with someone in a long time.
Okay.
But when I did live with my boyfriend, it was kind of like that. It was like...
And in your...
You know, I'm going to come home.
But you did feel like saying certain things and you were scared to say things.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I didn't.
No,
because it was so comfortable. It was like...
Okay, so in that dynamic, it was
it's
different.
like I know where you were at.
So when do you think is the right time to move in with somebody? So you're dating, you guys are like courting. Give a night. We're talking here. My idea is probably different than yours.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know that answer because I've lived with 2 boyfriends before, and I feel like it was way too soon. So probably longer. Probably longer, like
At least a year.
At least.
But then let me play devil's advocate here. Because you lived with them sooner, you wasted less time trying to figure out the logistics because you already knew up front very quickly. All right, within 2-3 months of you living with them, you're like, yeah, I don't like that you don't pick up after yourself, or you
which is big. It's,
you know, and those are big things. Or you don't clean, you don't know how to cook, or you know, what am I taking care of you, supporting you? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think I agree with you. I think a year, but I'm also a big advocate of it's a 1-year lease.
So 1-year lease guy.
Hey, there's people that go. I'm telling you right now, there's people that I know that are together literally for 10 years.
It is true.
High school sweethearts. They're there in love with each other. Like, oh my God, baby, I love you so much. The girl's like, I love you too. Let's have babies. They get married. 2 months into them living with each other, I want to kill this guy and stab him.
Or divorce.
And then the other guy's like, if I can throw off the balcony, I'll do it. And then they end up in a divorce. So it's interesting though. I do agree with you what you mean.
Actually, I was going to go there too because sometimes relationships last long because you have distance and it's comfortable. But
Facts.
I can see what you're saying.
And I also think too, like, goes back to communication, because here's the other thing too. Like, I think one thing that I've come to learn more and more is that, for example, like those things like, hey, like this person's not cleaning up with this, or damn, they left the blinds of the what's it called, the bathroom open, or the toilet seat is the shower curtain, or the toilet seat is up, or the little things that over time start building up, or like, I don't like if they did the dishes, or I don't like, so I always say too, like,
they don't flush the toilet, right?
But here's the thing, like, here's another thing too, like, you're also learning what your partner likes and doesn't like. So I'm also the type where it's like, let's communicate. I see that you don't like doing those things. I'm okay with doing those things or being aware of those things. And in the flip side, you don't like some of the things that I might be doing the way I'm doing it, but you like them this way. So how about we flip? You know, so you can also help your partners out by, I would say, like, you know, hey, you don't like the way to do the dishes. I don't like the way you do the laundry. How about I do the laundry? How about you do this one and I do that one instead? Right? And I think, too, like, communicating, just figuring out, like, what you guys don't like, what you guys like. You guys can also address that and be like, okay, well, I'll take over that. I'll take over this. And I think that's just one way
I
of,
was
like...
actually just going to say that, but in a different sense. Like, it's really hard to have two leaders in one space. Someone has to be a little slightly lower, a little bit submissive. So you got to also decide, like...
Basically, who's the alpha?
Where do you rule? Where do you rule? And at home, most women do. So I think it's also like very important to be like, okay, who's the leader here? Because we both can't be leading, or else we're gonna go two different ways.
Now I want to ask you this. This is gonna be random. This is gonna be random, but because you know I've heard these things before. Do you think horoscope matters? Hey, let's dive into that, because I think every woman in Miami
you're a double horoscope.
I
I feel like horoscopes are a big thing now, right?
Everyone in Miami is an astrologist.
Well, I think mainly women care about it more than guys, or know more about it than guys. That's just from what I
need
see.
to know, is it real? Are you into that, or
are
you're
you
not
into it?
it?
You're not. You're not into it.
I would say
Anthony,
for
let
the
her
most
finish.
part, I'm not into it, but...
You read it.
No, I don't read it. I just know what signs I get along with.
Okay.
So, like, I feel like for the most part, I'm not into it. But if I meet someone that is one of my signs, then I'm like, oh, I like you more.
So what are your signs?
I'm a Virgo, right? So I get along with Taurus and Scorpio when it comes to males.
Ah, interesting.
And third, Virgos. So those are like my top 3 signs. So Taurus, Scorpio, and other Virgos.
Scorpio fan club over here.
Yes. And it's like when I
Interesting.
meet a guy and he's like, oh, I'm a Scorpio. I'm like, okay, we'll get along. But when I meet a guy and he's like, oh, I'm a Gemini, I'm like, are we compatible? Okay, it says we're compatible.
So that whole thing happens. Like
Yeah.
The searching, okay.
But let's say like it says that we're not compatible. I'm not completely going to throw
Okay.
it
You just
off.
delete the app. You're like, this is wrong.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
But sometimes it's like crazy coincidences.
Yeah, I agree. There's times that it's just like weird. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is weird.
Like, I attract a lot of Aries guys, and I don't get along with Aries guys, and I drive them crazy.
Interesting.
My last 2 boyfriends.
But you hear that a lot. You hear a lot of people sometimes like, oh, the ones I'm interested are the ones that actually are not meant to be with. Like in people, sometimes that happens. Or I'm attracted to the ones that are the bad. You know what I mean? Like you hear that with guys and women. It's like, why do I keep attracting this?
Well, like for me, like my dad's a Aries, and women tend to attract men that are like their father. But me and my dad, like, we're very different. Yeah. So I think that has to do with it.
And your relationship is different. It's father-daughter versus partner and you. You know what I mean? So
yeah, your dad's going to love you. He doesn't care.
That's it, no matter what.
Yeah. But I always attract men that, like, or like my dad, like, have a very similar mindset. And that's why we kind of clash. Because remember, I'm more like my mom. My mom is, like, very, my dad's very, like he's hot-headed, but he's also very, doesn't take a lot of risk.
Gotcha. So you Taurus and Scorpios.
Taurus,
right, so
Scorpio.
Either a Taurus, a Scorpio, real estate entrepreneur.
There you go.
From Miami or West Palm.
Real estate mogul.
No, I don't care where they're from.
Done.
Yeah.
We solved it.
There you go.
There might be a listener out there. So don't be surprised.
Yeah, just slide in her DMs, guys.
At Naty Bites Homes.
Naty buys
That's it.
homes.
Not mobile homes anymore.
And then the other IG account, Naty finds love. And that's going to be the other one she's going to open up
We're
here.
going to start a new real estate account. I'm going to start giving relationship advice.
Done.
Yeah. I always want, look, so there's an idea.
You can't forget the horoscope training.
You know
Every
what?
morning, I read everybody's horoscope.
And on stories.
You do? Every morning? You read it?
That's going to be my,
that's
my
that's gonna be your thing.
relationship.
Yeah. And then she's going to tag you on your horoscope that day.
I'm going to be like,
you'll blow
what
up.
was it? Walter Mercado?
Oh my gosh. On TV.
Yeah. And you look at the client and you're like,
You know,
what are you, a Scorpio?
You should do call-ins, IG live call-ins. People can call you in and you do their horoscope reading.
And what am I going to end up going with the cards, the tarot cards?
It's the only way it's going to work.
There's a lot of people that make money off that.
Looks like you're going to buy a home for me today.
Looks like you need to get into real estate.
Uh-huh. Oh, I saw you're a Scorpio.
I like it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, I think this was pretty fun today.
Yeah, thank you guys
I
for
appreciate it.
having me. It was a lot more fun than I expected.
Well,
It's
last
very
question I want to ask though before we wrap it up. I know you said something development. You're getting to development. Just to touch upon it a little bit. What is the biggest project you're working on now, or what does that look like for you in the development space?
So in the beginning of the year, I realized like I want to do something bigger, and my vision has kind of shifted. You asked me last year, I wanted to do a lot of residential multifamily. At this point, I'm really tired of dealing with tenants, so I want to go into more commercial space, and ideally building commercial space. So that's kind of like my long term. Now I see myself more being like a commercial developer, like building shopping plazas and stuff like that. And I kind of started dipping into it. I am buying a duplex that I plan on tearing it down and building a fourplex. I have a lot that I purchased in North Carolina. I'm gonna split it and build two single families. And I know I have a third one. Oh, I have a project in St. Pete right now. I'm gonna tear it down, and I'm gonna build like a little mini mansion. Yeah.
A lot of congrats.
Thank
congrats.
you.
No, we want to say thank you so much for coming on here, taking your time. Real estate, love, development, the whole works, Miami. We had a great time.
Really dug in.
Yeah, with the whole 9 yards here.
You know me now.
I don't know. You told us that you barely talked, but it seemed like to me you took over the podcast.
Like, so. I can't get this girl to shut up. No, but thank you guys for having me, and I really appreciate it.
Well, we're glad to hear that. Where can people find you, connect with you, and what's the best way to access you?
For me, Instagram. So my Instagram is at Naty Buys Homes, NatyBuys Homes, HOMES. I'm really active on there. I post every day. I love posting more how-to content around real estate, more than just like the flashy Miami stuff. I don't really like doing that too much. I more like to teach people. I also have a real estate wholesaling course, and we're kind of expanding on the education side as well. So
awesome. Great to hear.
I love that. Education. And if you're interested in getting into real estate, I can help you.
You guys heard it. And Naty, last question. What is the biggest piece of advice you can leave out to all our listeners today in one sentence?
Honestly, just to be confident. If you have confidence in yourself, you can be wrong and then be right. And then if you're confident, you can be right and be right,
Love it. Guys, you heard it.
I love that. It's a big
confidence. Way to end the podcast. If you guys got value out of this segment, please do me a favor. Like, subscribe, comment, share, leave a review, leave a rating, because the more love you show us, the more love we can show back. Till next time on the Sweat It Out podcast.